Greetings, folks. Join me again for a little bit more motorcycle maintenance today. I just got back from a long road trip. I went up to Michigan from Florida, and then I took a little scenic route down. I went down the Blue Ridge Parkway and Skyline Drive up in Virginia and down to North Carolina. Beautiful, beautiful road. If you have a motorcycle that's like remotely comfortable to ride for a long time, I highly recommend it. It's about 500 miles from north to south. It was amazing. But went on that road trip. I got back about a week ago, and I've just been letting my bike rest up a little bit, and now I want to go through and do some checkups and little maintenance and stuff. I want to do an oil change and a number of other little jobs and stuff, so let's get into it. We're going to be starting with that oil change. Alright, so for our tools for this one, we've got an H6 socket. I've got this low profile oil bolt, and you see a lot of like leakage around here. Recently I changed the O-ring on the countershaft before I left, and I don't know, I think the O-rings are supposed to be like very brittle and not very high quality, so I think it might have broken again, and it's been leaking a good bit since I got back, so I might have to change that again. Maybe I'll do that in this video, maybe I'll order another one, we'll see. But I've got this low profile bolt, it's an H6, and then to get our oil filter out, we've got an 8mm socket, and we've got our oil pan, and I like to get this Motul 7100 here. It's pretty high quality oil. My bike runs really well when it's got it in there. I've also got this K&N KN123 model oil filter. So yeah, to start out, we'll be taking off this oil cap to let some air get through the system when we take our bolt out. All right, we got that draining. Make sure that the crush washer comes off when you get your bolt off. Just gonna set this over to the side here. I've also got some crush washers that I got off of Eco Mike's website. I'll link those below, along with everything else that I mentioned in this video. But yep, we're letting that drain. I'm gonna tilt the bike up a little bit, get the last little bits of oil out, and we'll get our oil filter bolts off, take that out, and we'll start filling it up. Alright, so another nice feature of this low profile drain bolt is that it's got a magnetized tip, and it can catch all these little metal fragments, but there is a lot on there compared to what I usually see. I think that line right there is a little metal fragment, and then look at all that. That is a little worrying. I don't exactly know where that would be coming from. Yeah, maybe I'm gonna have to do some bigger work inside this motor pretty soon. I have been wanting to do that big bore that Eagle Mike offers. It's like a 685 bore or a 692. I think it can go all the way up to 719 or so. I've wanted to do the 685 one just because it's a better piston. It's supposed to run a little smoother when you get it, but yeah, I might be doing some sort of damage to my motor right here. That's not great. Anyway, we got this filter thing off. Gonna take that out. I'll dab up the oil that's down in that little cylinder there, and then I'm going to wipe this off and put it back in so that we can start filling our oil again. Alright, I've got my new crush wash on here. I wiped all those metal shavings off, and I'm going to take this rag here and just clean up that surface right there so that the crush washer can mold to it well. and then this bolt is getting torqued to 16 foot-pounds. My torque wrench does not go that low, so it'll be getting torqued to 20 foot-pounds. It's not that big of a difference, so I don't think it's that bad, but yep, gonna be doing that. All right, we got that bolt back in, got it torqued down. I just pre-oiled my filter. I've heard this isn't super necessary, but I like to do it. Going to put this little pin back in right down here, and that little bit with the narrower side, that will go inside the engine. Okay, so we got our oil filter in. Everything's all good to go. Got our oil cap off. The bolt is in so that none will drain out the bottom. Now, if you're changing your oil filter, apparently it gets 2.5 liters, and if you're not, apparently it gets 2.1. I've already used some of the oil in this one, that's why I've got this one over here, but I'm just gonna put this one in, and then I'll check where I'm at the sight glass, and then just keep filling until I'm at the top line here. And then I'm going to start the bike, and I'll run it for a little while till it heats up, then I'll turn it off, let it sit for 15-20 minutes, let all the oil come back down through the system, and then see if I need to top off the oil any further. Okay, so I filled my oil up with everything that was in that big bottle. Ended up being about 2 liters, and it read at the top of the sight glass. So I'm going to start my bike, get it warmed up, let this oil go back through, and see if I need to top it off at all with any in this quart right here. Okay, next up we're going to be adjusting our doohickey, and that is under this plug, that rubber plug back there, and that pretty much tensions the chain for the balancer in here, so it just keeps your bike balanced. But to get there, I'm going to take this skid plate off, and that's just 3 10 mil bolts, and then inside the actual adjuster itself is an 8 mil bolt, and you'll also want like a rubber mallet or something, because that can help get things into the position once you've loosened everything up. So let's take this off and get that plug off. All right, there's that plug. Got the skid plate off, and there is our adjuster. As I said, that's an 8 mil. We're gonna loosen it a half turn, and then we'll knock the engine a few times with that rubber mallet, and then tighten it back up that half turn, and then we'll be done. We'll get that skid plate back on. All right, I also did take this sprocket guard off and my gear shifter just to have a closer look at all this, and it does seem, look at all that oil, that's so much. It does seem like it's coming down from this counter shaft, and so I'm guessing I either did the installation slightly wrong, or that O-ring, the O-rings that go into the counter shaft that seal it off are just inherently weak, and so I'm probably gonna have to change it pretty often, maybe every time I do the sprocket. But yeah, I'm gonna wipe all this up, and then I'm gonna get all this stuff back on. All right, I just let the bike sit a little while, cool off, and I did need to add another 0.2 or 0.3 liters. Not too much though. Let's go on to the next. Okay, next up, I'm gonna be draining my carb bowl, carb float chamber bowl, and that's just gonna be with that bolt right there. That is an H3, or I've got this 3 mil Allen wrench here. And you just do that to get some of the old gas out of there that might have been sitting at the bottom for a while, prevent varnish, keep it clean. I think you do that every 2,000 or 3,000 miles or so. So let's do it. All right, so I just drained mine. You don't need to tilt the bike or anything. It all comes out at the angle that it's at. And yeah, you don't really need to worry about catching it or anything because gas evaporates really quickly. I'll just put this rag down here. Let's go on to the next. All right, next up, I think I'm going to be tightening my clutch cable. I did notice when I was on the road, that does seems okay. I'm going to take a little bit of the play out of there. I noticed on the road it was a little bit worse. I don't know why it might have tightened up, but essentially what we're going to be doing is, I already loosened this. I'm going to loosen this little nut off of here, and then you can twist this bit with a with a plier. You twist it out to tighten it up, you can twist it in to loosen it if it's too tight, and then you lock this nut down, I think, against the clutch lever here. All right, yeah, look at that. Just a tiny bit of play in there now. That's perfect. And I turned this out maybe about a half turn, maybe a little bit more than a half, and you turn it this way to tighten it, as I mentioned. And then, yeah, you tighten this nut down toward the clutch lever to keep it in place. What's next? I think I might be tightening spokes next. Let's see, let's check our list. All right, yes, next is tightening the spokes. Then we're gonna be moving to the chain, cleaning it and making sure it's in tension. And to get this rear wheel off the ground, I've just got this very nice little quick jack that I got off of Eagle Mike's website. Again, link in the description. Make sure if you are using this or something similar to it, that you get a zip tie around the front brake, just so that the front wheel won't spin on you and get the rear tire on the ground. So we'll do that, and then we will lean the bike back, do the front wheel. Oh, also, I've got this nice little Tusk spoke tighten wrench. And I think the ones on this KLR are 6 mil, so they'll go on this side here. And what you want to do when you're tightening your spokes is you want to start at your valve stem, and you want to tighten each spoke a quarter turn at most, unless they are locked in place like that one. Then you skip 2. And tighten this one a quarter turn. I'll get the wrench on that when I've got both hands, but do that a quarter turn, skip 2, quarter turn, skip 2, quarter turn, and so forth until you get back to the valve stem. Then you start on your second one, quarter turn, skip 2, quarter turn, and so on until you get back. Start on the third, quarter turn, skip 2, quarter turn, so on and so forth until you're all the way around, you've done all the spokes, and then you keep going until all of your spokes are tightened down to the point where they won't really turn anymore. And you don't want to put too much pressure on these. If you do tighten them too much, then you start getting the wheel out of round, and you don't want that to happen. But you do want these spokes tightened down decently, you know, so just make sure they're not loose. Alright, well, I got these all tightened up, at least the ones that would tighten. And I should also mention that the guy that I learned this technique from, a guy on Rocky Mountain ATV, their YouTube channel, he just was saying that he tightens the spokes every time he gets a motorcycle into his shop. So I would say do this pretty regularly, maybe every time you change the oil, every 2,000 or 3,000 miles or so. But yeah, let's go on to the front. All right, next up is the chain, and as I've mentioned before, I use this Maxima stuff. Got the cleaner, and you got the wax here. The instructions are pretty self-explanatory. They just got them on the cans here. But I'm going to be cleaning, and then I will set the bike on the ground and check the chain tension. You want about 2 inches, so this is good right here, but we'll just make sure that it stays the same when the wheel's on the ground. And this is pretty pretty dirty. I'm guessing from all that oil that was leaking all over the place. But yeah, I may need a new chain. Sorry about that. Let's just check our sprocket here. Our sprocket's looking okay as far as the teeth go. If the teeth are starting to go in a certain direction, your sprocket's gonna need to be changed. But that's not looking too bad. It is very dirty. I mean, look at all this stuff right here. I don't know. I think my chain's doing well. I still have a lot of adjustment to go on here, but yeah, let's just get this cleaned up and see if our tension's good. All right, on second thought, I guess I'm doing this later. I've got to order another can of this. Feels like there's a little in there, but nothing. So we will be ordering a new can of that and then cleaning our chain in a little while. All right, wheels on the ground, and I'd say that's pretty good. If it's any more, what you'd end up doing is you would loosen this 12 mil nut right here. You'd loosen the axle as well. It's a 24 mil on the other side. I think this is 18. Loosen the axle, loosen this 12 mil nut, loosen the other one on the other side too, and then you would turn this 14 mil nut in, and that would move this little line on the gauge right here, and that would lengthen your wheelbase a tiny bit and take a little bit of the slack out of your chain. But this looks good for me right now. It's about 2 inches. Let's move on to the next. This was all the most involved stuff. The rest of the things that we've got going are pretty much just checking torques and inspecting different things. We've already done our sprockets, so that was one of them. But yeah, let's get to the rest of the stuff. Okay, so first thing I'm gonna be doing is checking my battery, because it's nice and easy for me at least. I've got this nifty little USB charger here that gives a readout of my battery voltage. As such, we'll turn the bike on, press this button, and we're getting a nice 12.8. That's great. Let's start the bike. Let's get some gas in that float bowl. 13.8 is a good reading on that. I'll just turn this back off. So battery's doing good. I'm not surprised when you take it on long rides. That's very good for the battery. It keeps it nice and charged up. Starting the bike a few times without really running it like that isn't too great. So make sure to keep your battery maintained. You're just pretty frequently going on decently long rides. What's next? Let's check our lights and our switches. So neutral's doing good, turn signal's good, high beams, that's good, that's good, high beam, left, right. I won't show you my license plate back here, but right's doing good, left's doing good. Horn's doing good. Our rear brake switch is working, but I may need to adjust it. I need to press the rear brake switch a good bit before it does turn on, so may mess with this little piece right here a little bit, and yeah, I think I can turn this nut right here and just get this a little further down or something like that. You can mess with this nut and how screwed in this is, and then the length of this wire right here to get it all optimized so that when you press your brake lever it goes. But our front brake switch is working, and I think that's about that. Let's test our kill switch both sides. Very nice. Ignition's doing good. I think, as you just heard, that's very convenient. That first time I fired it to test the kill switch, the firing was kind of slow at first, and it's been doing this for maybe like 5,000 miles now, where every once in a while the first few firings will be slow, and I don't know what's going on, because most of the time it's okay. Sometimes it fires slowly at first, and it doesn't matter whether it's hot or cold, whether the engine's hot or cold, whether it's been running for a while or it hasn't. It's very strange. And what I saw this video recently of this guy talking about how older bikes, this is a 2001, older bikes will sometimes have a resistor in the spark plug cable, because spark plugs did not used to come with a resistor, but newer spark plugs like the one I've got in here do come with resistors in here. So it may be that I have double the resistance going to my spark plug, and the guy said that that can result in hard starts, and I think also decreased performance. So I think I'm gonna make a separate video about this, but I'm going to take my spark plug cable apart a little bit and see if it does indeed have a resistor, and if it does, I'm gonna take it out and put a little cut piece of a screw in there just to help the electricity flow. But that'll be a separate video. It'll be short, but yeah, if you're interested in that, subscribe. I don't know what I'm doing next. Let's look at our list. Oh, I should also mention that if you don't have a USB that gives you a volt reading like that, you're gonna have to take the tank off. You're gonna have to take the seat off in order to check the battery. That is, tank, seat, side covers and all that. And then you'll need a multimeter, and you'll pretty much just stick both ends of the multimeter on the different terminals. You can check my 15,000 mile checkup video for that. I've got I do that check in that video, so if you would like to see the process for that, head over there. I'll put the link in the description. Okay, next up we're checking our throttle play, and that is a perfect amount right there. Very nice. If it was a little too much, I would be adjusting these two nuts right here and just playing around with that, seeing if one tightened anything, loosened anything, and you just want it to snap back nicely like that. Okay, moving right along, we are going to be checking the torque of our axle nuts, both front and back. Both of them are going to be set to 69 foot-pounds. I'm just going to take these pliers, get this little cotter pin out here, and this one's not doing too bad. It's not really bent up or rusty, so I'll just reuse this. But take this off, get this 22 mil socket on my torque wrench. Both are torqued to 69 foot-pounds, and we'll just make sure that they're tight enough. And this cotter pin is giving me a little trouble, so a nifty little trick I figured out was to get your pliers on the end of your cotter pin like this, and then hit your pliers with a hammer or a rubber mallet like that, and that should get it out the other side. All right, both of those were torqued down nicely already. Next, I'm going to be checking the torque on the bolts for the rear sprocket. Let's actually go over there. When I changed this rear sprocket, when I tried torquing down the nuts that were on the studs connected to the hub, one of them like twisted off. So the studs are really weak metal. So what I ended up doing was going and getting 10.9 bolts that were threaded to the same size and everything. I just put some of those on here, and those torqued down nicely. When I did put those on, I put them on with red thread locker, and that was before I knew that red thread locker was like the high heat thread locker. So I'm pretty sure that these are still on here nice and tight. I do not think these are coming loose anytime soon, and I'm actually kind of worried when I do have to replace this rear sprocket. I'll probably have to heat these up with a torch or something, I don't know. But anyway, we're going to be checking that. But before I do that, another thing to do is to, once you get back from your road trip, is to lower your preload from whatever you raised it to, because you're carrying a whole bunch of extra weight on here. My shock is extremely difficult to adjust, at least the preload. It took so much force. It was at 3 before I adjusted it. It took so much freaking force to just get it down to 4. I had like an extendable ratchet all the way, and I was pretty much like stepping on it just to get it down to 4. I don't know what the problem is there. Maybe I need to rebuild this shock soon. I'm going to put a new spring on here soon anyway, so maybe I'll just rebuild it then, just for the experience, and to make a video of it. But yeah, I'm a heavier guy. I'm just gonna keep this at 4 for now. I think that's where my normal setting should be. But yeah, if you raised your preload for the road trip, just make sure to lower it again back to whatever it was before. Same with the rebound. Let's go over there. With the rebound, it is behind this little plastic cover thing right here. This just snaps off pretty much, and you can only twist it one way, and it goes from 1 to 4. Mine's at 3 right now. I'm gonna keep it at 3 as it was. I probably should have raised it to 4 before I left, but c'est la vie. So yeah, I'm going to now get, I think those were 12 mil bolts. I'm gonna get my 12 mil socket, get it on my torque wrench here, and we will look up to see what those are torqued to. Okay, so those are all torqued down to 24 foot-pounds. I should mention that even though I did change all these, like I was saying, this bolt right here just was spinning. All the rest were tight, as they should have been, but this one was just spinning. So I don't know, the rear hubs on these are not designed very well. Maybe when I do redo this rim, I'll get another rear hub as well. I don't know, maybe aluminum or something like that. Anyway, those bolts for me, those were 13 mil. For you, the nuts, they're gonna be 12 mil. What is next? All right, next I'm going to check the air filter drain. And on the 15,000 mile checkup video that I did, someone left a comment and recommended that I plug up this little drain here. This is where it comes out. It goes in the air box there. I'm gonna take this 8 mil bolt out. I'm missing the bolt back there, but there should be another 8 mil bolt for you guys. And then there is a Phillips head holding this cover on for the air box. And then I'll just make sure that there's no dirt or anything like that where that drain is. But yeah, as I mentioned, someone recommended plugging this up. I did that just now with a little bit of silicone. I'm gonna let this cure before I really run the bike again. Yeah, they said that this can suck dust in and that can ruin the engine. I'm not totally sure how that works, since there is like an oiled air filter in there, but I do want to say, when I replaced this hose, and when I did, I think there was like a filter in here actually. So I don't know, maybe I'm doing this wrong. Maybe there should be another filter right at the end here, and this shouldn't be like closed off completely. I don't know, it doesn't seem super important, and since I did mention I would like to rebuild this engine and put that oversized piston in there at some point, I'm not overly worried about like really running this too badly. But yeah, so I plugged this up. Let's take the side cover off, let's take that airbox cover off, and let's see what's inside. Okay, so it goes up in there. And yeah, it seems, I'm gonna get my phone flashlight in there after I'm done with this video and really check it out, but it seems okay. And again, like, it seems like any dust that comes up would just get caught in the air filter, but I'm not a mechanic. Do not take my advice blindly. Go check other sources before you listen to me. But yeah, it seems okay. I don't know. Let's go on to the next. I think we're doing our brake pads. Okay, so to check these pads, I'm gonna take the calipers off. Let's see, we got 12, 13. So these are 14, at least for me. I've got this, this is an aftermarket caliper. It's a SV650 conversion. I've got a video of that process. I've also got the bigger disc here. Got a video of that whole process of that upgrade on my channel if you're interested in that. I forget what the original bolts might have been. Maybe they're these two right here. I think those are H6s. But yeah, I'm gonna get these off. I know that the rear caliper are held on with H6s, and I want to say they get torqued back down to 16 foot-pounds or 20 or something like that. I'll let you guys know, but I'm gonna grab a 14 mil socket, get that off, and we'll take a look at the pads. Okay, so we got our front caliper off, and as you can probably hear in the background, one of my lovely neighbors has seen fit to play some very loud music. I hope, oh my gosh, I hope copyright does not pick that up, but he's showing no signs of stopping that music, so we're just gonna keep on going. I think the wear is okay on these. It's definitely straight on both of my pads. I somewhat recall there being wear markers in these, and if so, I do not see them anymore, which means I should probably change them, but I'm gonna look a little further into the SV650 pads. Shut up, dude. I'm gonna look further into these and see if these pads do have wear markers on them. But yeah, I'm gonna get this bolted back up, torqued back down. I'll get a little thread locker on them, and then we'll move on to the rear. At least he's not playing as bad music anymore. This rear disc is not totally smooth, so the pads, they've got some little wear lines in them. But there's a great amount of pad left on those, and they're worn pretty evenly as well. Very good. I forgot to mention those bolts got torqued down to 18 foot-pounds. These will get torqued down to 18 foot-pounds. Orange thread locker on these as well. So let's get it back on and we'll move on to the next. I think we're inspecting our brake fluid. Alright, I'm gonna do a closer inspection of this fluid later and my front. One, because this dude's playing loud music and I'm actually scared of getting copyrighted. Two, because my phone's almost dead and I've done everything I need to really like get this bike back up and running. I'm gonna take it out for a ride tonight. It's been like a week since I've ridden this bike. Oh my gosh, I'm getting stir crazy. But yeah, I'm gonna come back tomorrow and we will finish our stuff. And then I've got a number of jobs. Got the tire job. I want to fine tune my carb and a number of other things. That will be separate videos, but yeah, got a few more inspection things to throw on this one, and so yeah, we'll get to those tomorrow. I'll see you then. Okay, so it's the next day. We don't got music right now, and I'm gonna be starting the day by checking my steering head bearings and just the amount of the steerability of my bike. It doesn't feel like there's any binding right here. Also, I should note, I brought my straight jack out because this would not work very well if the bike was on a tilt with that quick jack. So yeah, we're not getting any binding. That's nice. And you also want to see if it's turning smoothly. One of the things that can happen with your steering binding or your steering bearing is that it can get little dents in it from the bearings being in the same position when you're going straight. And when you notice that the handlebars are catching at certain points in the turn, then you know that your bearing is shot and you'll need to replace it. So we're getting good smooth steering from this right here. It's good to see. And then we'll also be checking the play in my steering head bearing, and I'm gonna need two hands for that, so I can't film into it, but essentially you're gonna be getting the handlebars straight, and then you'll be grabbing your forks and just sort of pulling and pushing on them and seeing if there's any play in it. And if there is, you're gonna want to tighten this little piece right here, and I'll go further into how to do that right after this, right after I check it. Okay, mine was all good, but if yours is not, you can loosen this nut right here. This is a 25 mil. And then you also want to loosen these pinch nuts right here on each side. These are 12 mil. And then after that, you can take a look here. You can tighten this by hitting it righty-tighty, lefty-loosey with a flathead screwdriver and a hammer. That will tighten it. They also make a special wrench for this. I don't have one, but yeah, you can hit it with just a flathead and a screwdriver or a hammer. And then when you tighten these down again, this nut gets tightened to about 50 or 60 foot-pounds, and these get tightened to 18. Also, I'm not sure if I mentioned this earlier in the video, but this fork is leaking a decent amount of oil, and my steering head bearing is it's old enough, or I've put enough miles on it to need to lube it again, but I'm not going to do that in this video. I'm going to make a separate video of me changing this fork seal to take care of this leak. And when I do that, I'm gonna change these old fork boots here, get some shiny ones on there, and I'm also gonna lube my steering head bearing. So if you're interested in seeing how that's done, I think you need to do it every 15,000 miles or so. If that's wrong, I'll put a little note on the video here, but that's due for me, so I'm gonna do that when I do this fork seal. And I take all these forks off and everything, so keep an eye out, subscribe to the channel if you're interested. And let's move on to the next. I think we're looking at our brake fluid. Okay, so I'm gonna start with my front brakes. My front brake is on it's on a decent tilt, especially if the handlebars are straight like that. It's just, that's a good ergonomic position because I'm taller, so my hands sort of naturally go right here. So it's tilted, it's not ideal. I wish the master cylinder on these was like disconnected from the lever, but c'est la vie. So before I take this off, I'm just going to loosen these two bolts right here, tilt it down so nothing drains out. And then I've got these upgraded screws from Eagle Mike's store. They don't strip as easily as the stock ones. These are a 3mm hex. I think the stock ones are just a Phillips or something like that. But yeah, I think my climber manual suggests that you change your fluid every 2 years. And I changed to this fluid when I put my new front brakes on, and that was just like 6 months ago or something like that, but we'll check it anyway. Maybe I'll need to add a little bit more. I've got some EBC brake fluid with me here, so let's do all that. Okay, so I was mistaken. Those bolts were actually 2.5mm, but my fluid looks very, very dirty. And I have noticed that my braking has been a little bit squishy lately, so I think I might just end up changing this right now. So yeah, will I put that in the video? I'm not sure, but yeah, it's very dark looking fluid, not very clear. And it's also a little bit low. It could be a little bit higher there, but yeah, that's our front brake. I'm gonna show you the back one, and maybe I'll show you the process of changing this fluid. But if not, it is in my my brake upgrade video that's on my channel as well. So let's do it. All right, so to check your rear brake fluid, just take this little piece off with these two Phillips heads, and then this thing just sort of slides out of here if you get it at the right angle. Oh, it just goes down like that. And then, oh, there you go. I'll take this cap off. And let's see. Take these off too. It's looking much more clear. I might put a tiny bit in, although I don't know, that's a fine level. The bike is also leaning, so when it leans back, it'll probably go right to the middle there. Not surprised by that. I changed to this fluid right before I left on my trip, so the rear brake is good. Front brake is dirty as hell. I think I'll be changing that. I actually decided that I'm gonna do a separate video just for flushing and changing the front brake fluid. So if you're interested in that, subscribe to the channel, keep an eye out. And next, I think we're checking our spark plug. So I'm gonna take the tank off, and we'll get to that. All right, so as I think I mentioned earlier, how to get the tank off is you're taking this 8mm bolt and the one back here, both the side fenders off, and then there are two Phillips heads to get the seat off, And then underneath the tank, there will be two 10 mil bolts right there and there. And then you've got a Phillips head right here. And then your tank's off. Oh, also, once you've got all the bolts and screws out, you'll want to cut your fuel supply off and get this hose off and that hose off right there. All right, so there is our spark plug. Just gonna remove this cable real quick. Set that aside. Then before we take our spark plug out, look at that bug right there. Before we take the spark plug out, we're gonna be blowing out this little dip right here. And to do that, I've got this nifty little Ryobi drill air compressor thing. It's got a nice little attachment on it that lets you just turn it into a little blower. So I'm gonna blow that out. I'll link this in the description. I'm not sponsored or anything. And then our spark plug is an 18 mil, and we'll just be taking it out, seeing what it looks like. All right, so there is our plug. Having trouble really focusing on this. Let's get in the light here. Come on now. Focus. There we go. All right, so it's decently sooty. There are some, it's not showing up too well on the camera here, but there are some decently good brown or gray spots on the center there, just underneath the actual spark little piece. So it's not too bad. I have noticed, well, my carb isn't running very well at all right now. I'm getting a lot of like backfires and stuff. I adjusted it a little bit. Adjusted the fuel mixture with this thumb screw right here when I was going through the mountains, and I don't think I did it correctly. And then when I got back down to like pretty close to sea level in Florida, I was getting a ton of backfires when I was decelerating. So, and I just took it out last night and I was getting the same thing, tons of backfires. And I was looking at the exhaust and it was like there was visible soot coming out of the exhaust. So I'm gonna need to play around with that. That's gonna be a separate video as well. But yeah, our spark plug looks okay. There, it's a little easier to see there. It's nice. You can see a little bit of gray through there. You don't want it to be black and like really sooty, and I don't think you want it to be like white either, but I'm not too knowledgeable about my spark plugs. I'll throw a video in the description that explains what you want to see better. But next, and I think this will be a separate video as well, this will be a shorter one, but I want to see if there is a resistor in this spark plug cable. Okay, so I ended up doing that whole process. There was a resistor in this cable. I took it out, I cut a little screw to size to replace the resistor, and I don't know, I fired it up twice and it fired up very, very smoothly, almost seemingly more smoothly than it was before. I'm going to, once I get everything back together, I'll fire it a few times, and hopefully I'm not going to run into that hard start issue. If I do, I'll throw something in here, but that video is going to be on my channel, so if you're interested in that, head over there. But next, I think I'm just going to take a look over the bike and make sure that all my bolts are still here, that none vibrated off over the trip. I do know a while ago this bolt, that I think it's this one. No, this one down here that holds the muffler on, that vibrated off my bike a while ago. I had to get an aftermarket one. So yeah, I'm gonna take a little once over. Okay, so everything seems to be there from what I saw. the last little bit, well, I guess I was planning on doing a compression test on this engine. I thought that might be one of the culprits for the hard starting, but I mean, I guess it's fixed now with that spark plug thing, so I'm not going to compression test it. I seem to be getting good pressure outside the exhaust, so I think it's okay. The last thing that I have to do is change my air filter. Okay, it is a good bit later. I think maybe 5 days, 6 days since whatever my last shot was. I don't really remember exactly what it was, but our new K&N air filter came in, so I'm just going to be installing that now. I've got some filter oil, and it came with a little bit of sealing grease that you put around the bottom of it in those channels right there. And the cool thing about the K&N is apparently it's rated for like 1 million miles or something like that, so at least they guarantee it for that long. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, let's get it in there. All right, so we got this cover off, and I actually did recently clean this air filter. I was having this backfiring issue. I forgot if I mentioned it earlier in the video, but I was messing with everything in the whole air fuel system, trying to get rid of it, and it ended up being that my nuts holding on this little header plate thing, these were loose. They vibrated a little loose while I was on the highway coming back, and so a tiny bit of air was able to escape, and yeah, that was just, it was causing backfiring on deceleration and gear changes largely. So got those tightened down and got it fixed, but yeah, I was messing with everything. I cleaned my carb, I cleaned my air filter, so yeah, it's clean, but it's an old one. It's a little greasy even after you clean it, so I have not changed it, and I bought this bike at about 6,000 miles. I've almost got 20 on it, and I want to say you're supposed to replace these every 15,000 miles, at least according to that climber manual that I've got. So what we're doing here is we're just taking this little screw out with the wing nut on the end. It's got a nut or a washer with it. Take this out. Garbo. And then it looks like we've got this filter. The plate will hold it on top. And then we will grease around the bottom. And I was just reading the instructions here. It says put a lot of grease around this little bit right here, and it should seal it against the plastic. So before I do any of that, I'm going to spray it with this stuff, and I think I'm supposed to do both sides. Allow oil to wick. Touch up any light areas on either side of the filter until there is a uniform red color on all areas. Yeah, so I guess I'll do both sides, and then we'll get it screwed on, and that'll be that. All right, I was actually just looking around online, and they said some people were saying that they oil both sides, some people were saying they oil one, but everyone was saying that you don't want to over oil your filter, so I just decided to do the outside, and I just did it now. So I'm gonna let this sit for about 20 minutes, let it all soak in, and then if there are any dry spots after that 20, I'll touch those up, and then we'll get it installed. Another thing I should mention is when I did clean that filter and took it out, I was looking a little closer at that drain hole that I was talking about earlier, and there was a good amount of like dirt and little pebbles and a little bit of oil from the filter all just like sitting down in there, and so I wiped it out pretty decently. So that's what I was trying to get at earlier. I couldn't really see it with the air filter in there. So when you do check this, take the air filter out and it'll be much easier to get to. Okay, I went back over and did a light coat, second light coat of oil, and then threw my sealing grease on here. I'm not sure if this is enough or not enough. It looks pretty liberal. It's enough to sort of stick out, spread out a little bit. So I can throw this back on. We'll get that plate on, try to get a good seal around the top here, and then we'll get this thumb screw back in. Alright, so I don't know how normal this is, but I'm having a weird issue where I'm trying to get this thing screwed in and sealed well on top, and the plate is a different size than the filter. And I can kind of get it to line up if I place it like exactly on top of the filter, so it's not like the lips aren't going over the edge, but I don't know, that doesn't seem like a very good seal. I'm gonna keep trying, and maybe I'll look it up online to see if anyone else is having this problem, but very annoying. Alright, finally we got it in with a good seal. Got it to fit underneath the plate, but my goodness, you have to squeeze that way more than I thought you would. You really have to get the rubber conformed to the plate and then hold it down pretty tightly as you tighten the thumb screw down, but got it in there, got a good seal. Whew. And so I think that might be my last mod for this video, last bit of maintenance. And yeah, let's get this back together. I'll get this cover over, get the Phillips on here. I'll get my side cover or my side panel over, and then I think I'll shoot the outro. Real quick though, I have seen a couple things online where people say that when they install the K&N filter, they need to change the tune slightly on their carb. So I'm gonna turn my bike on, I'll get it up to running temp, I'll check the throttle, and if it's too lean, if too much air is getting through, then the revs will hang for a little bit, and when you go to rev the throttle, they will there will be like a slight delay, so I'll be paying attention for that. And then while I'm adjusting this fuel mixture screw right here, this is aftermarket, I got this thumb screw aftermarket. The original one is a little flat-headed in here and it's very difficult to change. I'll link this in the description. But if it's too rich, the idle will go, you'll rev it, and then the revs will go underneath idle speed, and then we'll slowly come back up to them. So I'm gonna get a good balance there, and yeah, then I will be done, I think. Okay, I did not need to richen up my mixture. In fact, I needed to lean it out a little bit. My bike's been running rich a long time. I did this carburetor rebuild and KLX upgrade and changed out some of the jets, and I am not an experienced mechanic, so I don't think I did the tune very well. I think it's been running rich since I did that, but I just I leaned it out a little bit because my idle was dropping, or my revs were dropping a little bit below idle and then coming back up to them, and it was only a tiny bit. So I leaned it out a little bit, and now it's almost perfect. The throttle's very responsive as soon as you hit it, and then it just barely goes below idle and then comes back up almost instantly. I'll link a great tuning video in the description. In it, he says that a slightly rich engine is best, or at least I think he might have said that was his preference, I don't know, but I did it just slightly rich. And yeah, one thing that I did want to talk about that I have been noticing over the past few days is that Sometimes if it's hot, my engine has been pretty much unable to start. Like I'll go at it for a number of cycles, maybe like 10 cycles, and it just will not start. And it was backfiring a little bit and stuff like that. I'm assuming just because the exhaust was hot and fuel was going through the piston and then into the exhaust and wasn't exploded, so it exploded with the hot exhaust. I'm pretty sure that's the only reason that was happening. But I was looking around online for the causes of why an engine wouldn't start if it was hot, and the one that stuck out to me was if your valves if there's not enough clearance in your valves, when the metal of the valve system expands when it's hot, that clearance will shrink to almost nothing. And so when it does shrink to almost nothing, that means that your valve will always be open a little bit, and so you'll lose a little bit of that compression, and it just will not be good for starting when it's hot. So I recently did the valve shim, a valve shim change on this, and when I did it, I did not film it because it was a very complex job and I wanted to pay close attention to it and do it right for my first time. But when I got finished with everything, one of the intake valves was just below spec, and I'm assuming it got worse over the road trip, and so I'm pretty sure that would be the cause of that, which made me very happy, because when that was happening on the road, I was like, I don't know, I was thinking I was going to have to rebuild this engine soon, and I'm going to rebuild it at some point. I want to put that 685 kit from Eagle Mike, the 685 piston in, but I don't want to do that soon. I want to do that in like a year, maybe 2 years or something like that. So if you're interested in that, subscribe to the channel, please. But that explanation online that it might be the shims, that was nice, because I want to redo that shim job anyway. So because that one intake valve was so tight. So yeah, that's nice. I'm gonna be doing that soon. So if you're interested in that as well, please subscribe. And yeah, we'll probably be doing that in the next week, maybe 2 weeks, something like that. And other little jobs that I'd like to do, that will be other videos, are my tires are wearing. I've got a couple tires inside in my room. I'm gonna change those by hand without a tire machine, so I'll shoot a instructional video of how to do that. I think I might also do a tubeless conversion on my rims. And then if I'm doing all that to the rims, I might paint them. That might be kind of cool. But I'm gonna do that, and then one of my forks is leaking a tiny bit of oil, so I'm probably gonna replace the fork seals pretty soon, and I might touch up the top off the oil if too much is leaked out. So yeah, those are videos to look out for, but I think that's all for this video. Lots of different things, but we got through them all. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, please comment, and please subscribe. Those all help my channel, and I'm hoping to have this channel for a long time. Don't know exactly what I'm gonna do with it after I'm done doing most of the stuff on this KLR, but I got some ideas. So please subscribe, please look out for all that stuff, and yeah, I think that's about that. Bye-bye, folks.